Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Welcome to Season 3. Let me explain to you what will characterize this season. There will be a few modifications from Season 2. First, and this is not really relevant to the podcast, but by saying it here, I will make it very difficult for me to go back on it. I need to lose weight. My stomach, my belly is getting bigger and bigger. That's not good. It's not healthy. And so I either need to stop going to fast food restaurants as much as I do, or even nice restaurants, which I do a lot as well, and eat junk food or eat fattening food. So instead, I will start eating a lot of salads. I will become the salad man. That is my objective. So that's the first thing that I plan to do, is to lose weight, or at least have my weight better organized in my body, better structured in my body, which presently it definitely is not, as I am sure you can all notice by looking at me. Second, I made a commitment not to discuss politics in this podcast for Season 2. I have not been very successful at that. In fact, I would say I have not been successful at all. Why? Because by disposition, I am very political. I think very politically. Most sociologists, especially most Marxist sociologists, think in a very political way. And that is true of me as well. But for me to discuss politics that much is, I think, wrong-headed. So rather than discuss politics in the sense of condemning certain countries, condemning certain political leaders, I will instead refer to oppressed nations, especially nations in the third world, the developing world, and the fourth world, or the indigenous world, also called indigeneity. That is what I will attempt to do. That will be my focus. In other words, I will move away from condemning places and talk about countries that I can try to uplift and discuss manners in which they might be emancipated through conscientization, critical conscience, and consciousness raising. Condemning countries that are committing atrocities does no good. It's better to focus on countries that require, right now especially, emancipation. Next, social theory. I am by disposition a social theorist. Social theory was one of my areas in graduate school for my Ph.D. And I plan to discuss social theory now even more than before. I have discussed a number of social theories already, including my own, dialectical meta-realism, and the various components of it, such as Maoism, third worldism, or as I call it, socialism from below, third worldism, fourth worldism, but I will begin discussing other theories as well, including theories that I may not agree with, and I will, when appropriate, offer critiques of those theories. And so hopefully, if you are as theoretically inclined as I am, you will find it interesting. If not, you can simply turn that particular episode off and make believe that it doesn't exist. It will not bother me at all. Next, the sociology of religion. I am a sociologist of religion. That, along with social theory, was my major area for my PhD. I will discuss more religions, a lot more religions. Why? Because I know a lot about religions. Now, one thing I should say is that as a sociologist of religion, I am not a debunker. Sociologists of religion generally find debunking to be disgusting. I know I do. I don't like it when people come on YouTube or come on radio or whatever platform they are using and condemn religions that they don't like. And I'm sure that you have seen that happen as well as I have. So instead, as a sociologist of religion, when I talk about religion, it is always to analyze them, to examine them, to understand them better. I love religions. I began studying them when I was 11 years old, and I became a sociologist for the specific purpose of studying religions. And so I will begin sharing more of that with you in this podcast. Then, my own religion, the Baha'i faith. I have also only recently started discussing my own religion in this podcast. Now, off this podcast, I talk about it all the time. But I felt that since I was discussing politics, that talking about my religion would be inappropriate. Now, since I am abandoning or will try to abandon my discussion of politics, for example, rather than talking about a nation or condemning a nation, I will instead refer to the capitalist world system. Given that, I think that talking about my religion might make more sense. And so I will do that. Bear in mind that anything I say about my religion, or for that matter, anything I say about anything, is entirely my own understanding. I am not an authority on my religion. There is no such thing. All Baha'is are amateurs. No Baha'is are professionals. We are all in a process of learning, all trying to figure out more and to make sense more out of the teachings of Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. So whatever I say will simply be my own personal viewpoint at that time. And that is no guarantee that my viewpoint at that time won't change in the future. My views change all the time. In fact, I joked in one of my books that my views sometimes change like the weather, which is true. So that about outlines the direction or directions in which I will be taking this podcast. And that is the reason why I'm calling this season 3, to make a break, sort of, with season 2 and season 1. I have not been successful at abandoning politics in season 2, which I said I would. But now, after chatting with a friend of mine over the phone for a couple of hours just before I came and did this podcast episode, I have decided that I really need to do it. And she has given me additional reasons for why I need to stop condemning nations and condemning political leaders. I can't do that, or maybe more accurately, I shouldn't do that. And so again, I will do my level best while not offering any guarantees that I will try to avoid condemning nations, leaders, and to avoid discussing partisan politics, because by definition, partisan means divisive. And the essential teaching of the Baha'i faith is unity, and partisanship is incompatible with unity. And so if I want to be a Baha'i, and I don't want to divide myself into compartments, meaning Mark the sociologist, Mark the Baha'i, then I need to be faithful to that. That does not mean that I can't discuss topics separately, but it means that I can't become a divided person. I am one human being, and I can't abandon one thing in order to discuss something else. That is how I see it now. I wish I would have seen it that way before, but we all learn from experience. So that is where my head is at right now. I hope you will appreciate it. If you obviously do not like something I am talking about, you are free to turn me off. Yes, you can turn me off. YouTube has a stop button. So you are not required, I'm being joking, obviously, you are not required to listen to what I say, but I am offering it. What I am doing is offering, especially in my discussion of social theory and my own social theory, dialectical meta-realism, and discussing the problems in the world and the oppression of different countries in the world, is conscientization, as Paulo Freire called it, meaning critical conscience and consciousness raising. That is what I am trying to do and will continue trying to do in this podcast. I think in the difficult times in which we now live, when so many people are suffering unnecessarily, which depresses me. It depresses me all the time. But depression is not going to solve the problem. Instead, I think talking about it, sharing it with you, and perhaps creating a kind of, I don't know, moral community, people who share the same morality, people who agree that there is moral realism, that moral relativism is an illusion, that we all need to support the emancipation of the oppressed, the third world and the fourth world. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.